Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something really fundamental, something that affects all of us, the inner child.
Yes, and we're basing this exploration on a really interesting conversation with Titi Mini on V, etc. It was the first part of their Inner Child series focused on connection.
Exactly. So our mission today is really to unpack this idea. What is the inner child? Why is everyone, well, seemingly talking about it now?
And crucially, how do we actually connect with it? We're aiming to give you some insights, maybe some tools for your own journey of self-understanding.
Yeah, because what immediately jumped out at me from the source material was just how much talk there is around healing and this inner child concept.
Mhm.
Putimaniam shared that story about guiding this huge group exercise, focusing on the inner child.
Right, and he mentioned both sides, these incredible breakthroughs some people had,
Yeah.
but also how tough it was for others, like really difficult to even start connecting.
Which leads to how he framed this whole healing trend. He acknowledged, that some people, maybe younger folks especially, might be a bit skeptical.
A bit cynical, perhaps, like it's overused.
Exactly. And he posed that question. Why now? Why this huge focus on healing right at this moment?
That's such a key question.
My first instinct was, well, information overload, this whole attention economy thing.
Right, we're just bombarded.
Totally. Constantly processing external stuff.
Right.
So maybe there's this growing need or just more awareness of our internal world. It kind of reminds me of how talking about depression has opened up.
That's a great parallel. And Thessalonian agreed, but he added more layers.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, this idea of the flat world, global issues feel immediate, personal now. And also a generational thing, younger generations focusing more on the self, which he said can be good for self-awareness, but potentially has downsides too regarding, societal responsibility, looking beyond just oneself.
That really hit home for me. Thinking about how things have changed. I remember when focusing on yourself was almost seen as
Well, selfish.
absolutely a different era.
And now there's more space, maybe even encouragement for looking after your own well-being. The whole context feels different.
And Casiminium brought it back to individual responsibility within that context. Doing your own inner work isn't selfish. It actually helps the collective.
How so?
Because you're addressing your own difficulties first. You can't really help others effectively if you're struggling significantly yourself.
Right.
It's about building that inner foundation.
Right, getting your own house in order first.
Precisely. And he had this really interesting idea about playing with negative emotions.
Playing with them. How did he mean that?
Like having the skill, the talent almost, to be present with someone else's negativity without just absorbing it or letting it spread.
Okay. Not getting pulled down.
Exactly. And also the power of consciously bringing positive energy into situations. Managing your own inner state to influence the connection. That ties into the question you raised in the original talk. Do we actively look for the inner child, or does it just show up? You shared your own experience, saying it felt like it was banging on the door during a tough time.
Oh, absolutely. It wasn't subtle. It felt urgent. And the image that came up for me was, well, like a monster.
Wow, monster.
Yeah, it sounds dramatic, but it was this intense, raw, unprocessed emotion surfacing. It was actually pretty frightening.
Yeah.
How powerful it felt.
That's quite a visual. And Thessalonian connected this internal world to something bigger, didn't he? Referencing Harari.
Yes, Yuval Noah Harari's point about how, despite dominating the planet, humans often have surprisingly little self-understanding.
We know so much about the outside world, but not ourselves.
Right. All this untapped potential inside, but we get so caught up in external distractions, we often neglect that inner landscape.
It's like we have this huge internal territory we barely explore.
He even mentioned the movie Lucy, the idea of unused brain capacity, and linked it to spiritual traditions that talk about our vast inner potential. We're just scratching the surface, really.
Which brings us to that avatar reference he made. I see you.
Yes, such a powerful metaphor for truly seeing someone else, but also for seeing ourselves. That deep recognition and presence.
He connected it to his own history with you, didn't he? That sense of genuine connection.
He did. It's about that level of authentic acknowledgement.
And applying that same intention inwards.
Yeah.
Really seeing what's going on inside us.
Which led him to describe a practical exercise. Just returning to the present moment, checking in. How am I feeling right now?
He told that story about asking visitors to Vietnam how they felt upon arrival.
Yeah, just that simple pause and acknowledgement. What's here?
It made me think about my mornings. I mentioned I have this little ritual, sort of greeting myself,
Okay.
acknowledging how I feel, but consciously trying not to let negativity just take over the whole day right from the start.
And Thirimanim really liked that word ritual. He explained it in terms of mindfulness, especially waking up, reconnecting with your bigger self, managing the mental noise from dreams or whatever, setting an intention.
Yeah, setting the tone for your inner state.
He used that beautiful analogy of the temple.
The temple.
Yeah, tending to your inner state, like caring for a sacred space.
Right.
So that your, let's say, powerful, positive inner self can actually emerge. He linked it to various spiritual ideas.
And for me, the way that clicks is thinking of it as the inner child needing that care.
Yeah.
When difficult feelings come up, my instinct now is more towards compassion for that feeling.
For that part of you.
Exactly. Compassion for that part of me that's hurting or struggling.
And Taekim Nian picked up on that shift in you towards engaging more with your inner world. He acknowledged it's a journey, right? Ups and downs.
Oh, definitely not a straight line. It's ongoing.
And he made that really important point.
Yeah.
We often know so little about ourselves, really. But even just brief moments of checking in, connecting with yourself, can reveal so much about what's underneath, like what that inner child might need.
Like little clues pointing to bigger issues.
Exactly. Which led them into defining the inner child more formally. He noted it's actually quite a recent concept in mainstream psychology.
Really? It feels so intuitive.
Relatively speaking, yes.
Yeah.
He mentioned that book from 1991, Recovery of Your Inner Child, being significant. So the formal term gaining traction is newer.
Interesting timing.
And he was careful to clarify that the term inner child itself isn't explicit in Buddhist philosophy.
Okay.
But the core practice of looking inward, understanding things like afflictions, ego, that's central. The goal of self-awareness is very much there, just using different language.
So different maps for a similar territory.
Well put, yes. And based on his experience, Thadi Minyam proposed a really useful way to think about it. 3 types of inner children.
Okay, I'm listening. What are the 3 types?
First, the natural inner child.
Natural.
This is about our inherent purity, our potential for good qualities. He linked it to the Buddhist idea of positive seeds within us. Think of that core innocence, curiosity, joy you see in kids.
Got it. That's essential goodness. What's the second?
The underdeveloped inner child. This happens when emotional growth gets a bit stunted.
How so?
Often due to environments that were maybe overprotective or too controlling. The child didn't get enough space to figure things out themselves, make choices, understand their own feelings or abilities fully. They might live more by external rules than internal guidance.
So emotional growth being held back a bit.
Okay.
And the third?
The third, and often the one carrying the most weight, is the wounded inner child.
Wounded. That sounds significant.
It is. It comes from unprocessed childhood trauma or difficult experiences. These don't have to be huge, capital T traumas necessarily, but experiences that led to emotions being suppressed.
Because they weren't safe to express.
Exactly.
Right.
Or weren't acknowledged. These wounds can lie dormant for years, then suddenly get triggered in adulthood by situations that feel similar. Have you ever felt, an adult reaction that seems way out of proportion?
Oh, definitely.
That could be your wounded inner child stepping forward.
That makes so much sense. Those early experiences just embedding themselves.
And he explained how children facing judgment for mistakes might learn to dissociate.
Dissociate.
Kind of mentally check out, hide their real feelings to avoid punishment or disapproval. It's a survival tactic. They create this hidden self, this wounded inner child that learns to mask its true feelings.
Wow. Protecting themselves by hiding parts of themselves.
Precisely. And the key thing is, even if we consciously forget that wounded child, it's still there, influencing our behavior. It can come roaring back when we're stressed or triggered.
Like an echo from the past showing up in the present.
Mm-hmm. And this led you to reflect on that interview you did with the swimmer on VN.
Ah, yes. Her energy seems so pure. And a listener commented that I tend to look for the struggle underneath.
Right. Which made you think about your own journey, from maybe presenting positivity outwards to acknowledging your own inner vulnerabilities more.
Yeah, it was a moment of realizing maybe my own stuff makes me more sensitive to potential hidden wounds in others.
Yeah.
And myself.
Which brings up that big question. Does everyone have a wounded inner child? At least to some degree.
Yeah, I wonder that. Is it possible to get through childhood completely unscathed?
It's a deep question. To help people explore this for themselves, Tasimin Nin offered a list of basic needs, 12 of them, grouped into 3 categories: These relate directly to that inner child.
Okay, needs. Let's hear them. What's the first category?
The need for attention. This covers things like needing to feel seen as important, needing praise, needing our value and potential affirmed, and needing help to reach that potential. Basically, feeling seen and supported.
Wow, okay. Those feel incredibly fundamental. The second.
The need for love and belonging. This includes expressing and receiving affection, physical touch, seeing loved ones happy, and crucially, being loved and respected for who you are, unconditionally.
Yeah, unconditional love. That feels huge. And the last one?
The need for self-expression. This is about freely expressing emotions, all of them, even the difficult ones without judgment.
Being allowed to feel angry or sad.
Yes, and also exploring your identity, your talents, being allowed to make mistakes and learn, and developing independence with support.
That space to mess up and figure things out. So important.
Absolutely. And his conclusion was that these are universal human needs. Everyone has them. They're directly tied to the well-being of that inner child.
So they're not just kid stuff, they stay with us. If, say, that need to be seen as important wasn't met, how might that show up later?
Great question. As an adult, maybe you'd constantly seek external validation, struggle with feeling good enough even if you're successful, or perhaps become overly dependent on others' approval.
I could see that. That makes a lot of sense.
And he made one final important distinction: how a child versus a healthy adult meets these needs.
Okay.
A child might demand immediate fulfillment, understandably. They lack perspective. An adult, ideally, approaches these needs with more composure, wisdom, finding healthier ways to get them met.
So the needs don't go away, but how we handle them should mature.
Exactly. Our approach to seeking attention, love, self-expression, it ideally becomes more balanced, less reactive as we grow emotionally.
Well, this has given me, and I'm sure our listeners, so much to think about. That connection between current struggles and those old unmet needs, it's powerful.
It really is. And this is just scratching the surface, the connection piece. Next time, we can maybe get into how to actually work with these things.
Yes, definitely. Think of this first deep dive as an invitation for you listening to start exploring inside.
Maybe notice those moments, a sudden flash of anger, a pattern you don't understand. Could that be a message from your inner child? A clue about an unmet need?
And that point about self-compassion really landed for me. It's not selfish. It's maybe the foundation for showing up better for others.
Spot on. Understanding and being kind to your own inner world lets you be more present, more empathetic out in the world.
Thank you so much for walking us through this. It feels much clearer now and also deeper. I really hope this focus on connection has helped you, listening, feel a bit more connected inwardly too.
It's been really valuable exploring it together.
So please join us next time. We're calling the next deep dive reconciliation. Sounds like we'll be getting into the healing part.
Looking forward to it.
Until then, thanks for diving deep with us. We'll connect again soon.